Everybody, welcome back to the Daddy Knows Best channel, helping you be a successful, happy man out there. Today, as you saw with the title, this is going to be about what is MGTOW and a wake-up call to MGTOW as a community towards other MGTOW content creators, and I see the potential in this video. This might be the most important video that you ever watch, and I'm not just saying that. This might be the biggest video that you've ever seen and that you've ever heard of. And I'm shaking in my boots over here because I feel, the potential and what this video could do. I've never seen anybody make a video like this. I've never seen anybody make a video that really kind of calls out and also encourages MGTOW to be what it should have been and what it should be today. So first off, I want to say that this video is about empowering men. I'm not going to be taking shots at the MGTOW community. Actually, I'm going to be trying to encourage it. Men need to step back into their power. We have all kinds of movements and women and spiritualists and who talk about women stepping into their power and divine feminine, and we have all these organizations who fund and protect and encourage women in every single possible way. And, this isn't about putting women back in the kitchen or putting women down. This is about men having rights and freedoms and being treated fairly in society. Again, some people out there still believe that women somehow, with all their powers and privileges and all the benefits that they get from government and men's, taxation and all these things, they still believe that women aren't given a fair shot in society, as men are overtaxed and they have no rights, versus like Roe versus Wade, whether that child or lives. Men have no rights in regards to most things. I mean, they can't say no or yes regarding many things. But let's continue. That's this is about helping men, which will in turn help women. Of course, we're not as MGTOW, and I'm not encouraging that we make women our focal point. I think that actually is a problem. Far too many MGTOW creators are really just pickup artists and dating gurus, and all they really do is encourage men to be weak. They encourage men to serve their baser instincts and be subservient to women, and that's really what put us all in this place to begin with. Men can't control themselves and say no to women who in turn use the governments and societies against men. So you have less power and less money, and they take advantage of your labor and everything that you do. We can't talk about men without women, but this isn't the focus of MGTOW is on men. And we'll talk about whether we should talk about society at all, but I wanted to mention this here real quick, that we already know that organizations like the CNN, MSNBC, PBS, and all of these organizations that are taxpayer funded, that you are paying for these organizations, that they are powerful allies towards feminism. These types of organizations and all these things do exist, and if you haven't gotten a wake-up call as a man, I'm trying to here invite come together, men. Listen to me here. If you don't see all, if you haven't been browbeaten or mocked or insulted by our news, if when you went through college, or just in regular life, how you're treated by just about any woman you meet, if that's not enough for you, if you see the constant crusade to take over our pop culture, our entertainment, our TV shows, Star Wars, Star Trek, video games, and everything else, they already have, again, the music industry, they already have Hollywood, they already have your public schools, your colleges, and everything else. They are the same people who say that talking about anything is going down the rabbit hole. They suggest that you going down, or searching for more information or wisdom is dangerous. Now they will monitor or control your phone calls and your text messages to determine if you're sharing, information that would hinder everything from government policies to corporate earnings. If you, possibly defame or expose a business and you know, hurt their you know, their bottom line, that you know that they're not making enough money. You know, again, the Ministry of Truth, they shut it down, but there's a lot more dangers coming your way. And I already know, and I was a reviewer of certain products for a while, and it was obvious that if you are a critic or even have neutral things to say about a company, that they don't want you to be talking about, you know, goods and services. Real critiques, real judges, you know, the real professionals of, like, that used to be on places like Rotten Tomatoes and the like. These types of people really have all been kicked out or have become shills. And it's just like our police. And we're really at the last stages of trying to save, you know, our lives and men not being completely enslaved. You know, again, they make it out like that to be a joke. But, you know, they regularly still mock you, and they think it was very funny and very entertaining that they were able to take over the algorithms of Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, and that these types of people now have complete and utter control of, you know, what is seen, what's not seen, and they are socially engineering and molding society to their whims and what they think is best and safe, and a world of quote-unquote equality where, you know, no matter how smart you are, how creative you are, you know, no matter if you saved more money, or maybe you had more skill or ability, no matter how well spoken you were, I mean, no matter what you did, that you should not have, you know, more than somebody else. We're going to a world of, again, they say this isn't socialism, but it truly is, and it's a new world of it, and they think that they will create this utopia, and that's really what we're going at with the United Nations. If I haven't scared you off now, let's continue more about what MGTOW is and why I'm addressing these things, because if we don't stop these types of things, if we don't fight against these types of people, then you can hide in your caves, your man caves, you can run away from society as much as you'd like to, but you'll be taxed, you'll be regulated, you'll be targeted, and you'll own nothing, and they say you'll be happy about it. So how about it, men? You know, let's talk about how we can improve this and possibly fix this. First off, the MGTOW people never suggest when they will come back or how they will come back. This is one of my complaints against feminism. Feminism also never tell you what is equal. When will we become equal? Is it when every, you know, a woman has the equal amount of quote-unquote desirable jobs as politicians or CEOs and businesses, that there's an equal amount of women in all desirable positions? Of course, they never talk about equality. We're going to have an equal number of plumbers and electricians and construction workers and sewage workers and these types of things. Of course, they never talk about that kind of equality. They talk about equality once they can step into cushy jobs where, you know, things just need to be managed to make the gears turn and work, where there's not a lot of effort that's required. That, you know, when will MGTOW people come back, quote unquote, come back to society? Because is the goal of MGTOW truly for men to all, you know, completely step away as, you know, from society? Is the goal of MGTOW for men to, you know, never return to any form of society? Again, we know as a MGTOW that MGTOW is not really a movement, and it doesn't have a leader. Where we're, you know, MGTOW is, you know, again, not trying to, you know, mold society into a MGTOW world. That's never been the ambitions of MGTOW, but it certainly is of feminism. And of course, we'll talk about how feminism is a tool of the United Nations and the globalists as well. But you don't see men out here, you know, trying to control society. In fact, men out here just want a little bit of equality. That's the funny thing. Men are the ones who would like a little bit of equality, and men are the ones being pushed out of society in every possible way, and being punished and regulated and taxed unfairly, and, you know, and also in every possible way. But let's continue. I wanted to make a point as well that, you know, again, MGTOW, I'm not suggesting MGTOW pressure and try to control or try to manipulate society. In fact, if you're a feminist watching this, why don't you talk about or expose or tell me why feminists continue to blackmail? Everything from Mary Poppins talked about that, and it was normal for big women's marches, and they still do that today, to show social and political power. They openly blackmail business leaders and directors and people of affluence. It's very easy for a woman to blackmail somebody of affluence these days. You're an upcoming actress, you're pretty, you're attractive, he offers you a job for a little bit of some services, a little bit of fun, and this man might be influential, he might even be very attractive. All you have to do is say, I'm gonna say a 4-letter word and report you to the government, and a woman has all the control over that man. You're a puppet of a woman. Many men out there are any woman that you've slept with or been with or done anything with has the power in regards to government to essentially throw you in jail and believe all women, and she'll get a brigade and a GoFundMe, and people will throw money at her because believe all women, trust all women, no matter what they say, no matter what they do. You don't see men out here doing boycotts where they actively try to organize employees to resist or shut down or quit for the day. You don't see MGTOW people do these types of things where they threaten commerce and industry and big businesses. I'm not suggesting that they do this. I don't think that's the best way to approach that. But again, these things were allowed and even are promoted and celebrated, these types of people, as heroes, back in the day. Men, these feminists and some of these people these days, they're even violent, and they're still encouraged and believed as told that they were heroes. Sometimes people fought against even, Tom Ford, Mr. Ford, the Ford Motor Company back in the day, who just wanted to, run a business, without people organizing as laborers to, shut down and threaten and destroy his property and business. And there were people even back in the day who were willing to undermine, an actual business for their own advantage. Next, we have the next point I wanted to make is that MGTOW people do not seem to care to explain that they are more than a counter-feminism movement, or they're not even a counter-feminism movement. I know that some people in MGTOW or quote-unquote red pill view this differently. Some people do think that talking or being opposed to feminism is some element to being MGTOW or going your own way, because what's pushing a lot of men out of society is feminism. But the truth is that MGTOW is not a counter-feminism movement. And that's why this really bad and also dumb and disingenuous argument comes from some of these pickup artists and dating gurus that I have mentioned and need to make videos exposing them, that they've acted like there's really no difference between the two. Again, MGTOW is a lifestyle and attitude about freedom and escaping the government and society, which is oppressive. Again, like we talked about before, you don't see MGTOW people organizing boycotts and stepping outside of businesses and disrupting work and disrupting labor and disrupting production. In fact, we have very few, if little, actual factories and production in the West at all. We have these agendas and essentially social programs with the United Nations and the globalists, that the United States has sent most of their factory and almost all of their means of production across the world. I as an American, I've seen some paper factories that produce some paper, but I have never seen like a steel mill. I've never seen an actual factory in my entire life. I know that there's a few that exist in a few cities, and I know that we still produce some of our cars in the United States, but there's almost nothing that's made in the USA anymore. There's almost nothing. There's some specialty products for constructions and hard-working people. Like, I know that there's Drill Hog drill bits, use M7 steel, really good steel. But, and I'm not sponsored by them, by the way. Anyways, it's really funny that there's almost nothing in America that it's even American anymore, and or that's fair, that's decent. The thing is, again, I'm not telling you as a man that you have to build up society, that you have to oppose feminism, but this narrative that continues, and it empowers and it emboldens these leftist and feminist type people. If they can tell the average person, who they have, they have more influence over the general public, they have more exposure and power over them. If all they have to do is and say to them is that MGTOW is against feminism, that's enough for 90% of them to just walk away and say that MGTOW are bad people. And now that they're willing to, march and speak and even attack MGTOW people just because you're counter-feminism. That's all they have to do. They don't have to debate you. They don't have to argue with you. They don't have to articulate with you. And that's one of the things I wanted to mention. Again, I'm not telling men that they, just like I'm not telling women to get back in the kitchen, I'm not telling men that they have to jump back into society and protect and to provide and to try to build civilization and to create inventions and science and all these things. But one of the problems is, again, men have been too silent. Again, you've been taught to take the punches. You've been taught to roll with the punches. Take your whips. Take a couple slaps even from a woman and not retaliate. If you as a man were to slap a woman back or punch a woman back, there's a lot of people these days who would actively start attacking you, even if she slapped or punched you first. That's literally the world we still live in. And again, women have all these privileges and all these powers over men, but a man can't even defend himself. And also men who have been violated against their will, they are mocked and act as if they don't exist, and they still refuse to put them or include them in statistics. Again, I could go on and on with this. Women can commit plenty of crimes, and sometimes just as much, if not more, crimes than men in certain ways. And one of them is domestic violence against children, especially, and they continue to ignore and twist the facts regarding that as well. But again, men are failing to explain themselves and even the arguments that might support their views. Men, again, with our previous point, I'm not encouraging men to try to take over or subvert organizations and corporations. What feminism did was very underhanded. I don't think a MGTOW should do that. That would be a way to get some power back and potentially, do that just like women did. But that's not really going to heal society and help society and bring things together. And of course, that would be very difficult. The men don't have the advantages and the opportunities, and we'll talk about that here in a second, that women do in certain ways. But and again, men, not all women have even helped society. Again, build society. Men were expected to build, protect, and even nurture, society. Even children. Men taught skills and abilities to their sons, especially, but to children, it's women and feminism who have kicked men out of the house. Again, we had a whole generation, a whole decade or more, maybe even 20 years, where all dads were either deadbeat dads or had the potential to be a deadbeat dad. I've seen loyal, providing men who were sacrificing everything for their children, and their mothers taught their children to remember like one case or example where their dad was possibly lazy or made some kind of mistake, and then the dad was considered just a deadbeat dad. So, and it could be something as innocent as, you're sitting and taking care of your daughter, when your wife's out there shopping, spending your hard-earned money, and you decide to sit down and play some video games with your little daughter who's, really small and sitting with you, and that, could be considered a good, a happy memory. That could have been a happy memory for the dad, having his little daughter there and him playing some video games as she watched, and maybe she had some juice or a juice box, and maybe they ordered some pizza or something. I mean, that could have been a beautiful memory. And I literally saw this family situation happen in front of me, and the father was browbeaten down to believe, or was essentially told that he was a deadbeat because he quote unquote wasn't taking enough care of the daughter. Again, I don't know what happened. Maybe, she wasn't given the juice box, or was just left to sleep in the crib. I don't know. As a little daughter, I don't know. But it's amazing that you can do everything, but again, they hold against the smallest slight and the smallest things against you. That's exactly, and that type of thing, and I bring this up because that type of attitude of women, and as you start realizing this with government, that they will continually do this, that if you make a small mistake, you will be labeled and stereotyped and seen in that bad light. It'll be very difficult for you to get out of that light, but women are put on a pedestal and assumed to be put in a good light. And they do all these nice little superficial things, but they never work or sacrifice or give like men do. And again, you can give consistently for years, decades, or sacrifice your whole entire life. But if you made one mistake or said one thing wrong, or one woman said that she was uncomfortable in your presence, or thought that you made a joke that she didn't understand, or she assumed something about you because she misunderstood something, or there was or they gossiped, and it gossiped and went to the third, fourth, or fifth, it went down the line, and then the gossip got twisted, and somebody wanted to manipulate the gossip to make you look bad at the workplace. When at your deathbed, people will remember that you weren't that great of a man. You didn't really do that much. I mean, you worked your whole life and sacrificed everything, and you could have built up a good family and had a good legacy. But remember that time, so John or so and so did this, and based on some gossip, and everybody will say, yeah, we remember that, and they'll have a bad image of you. Imagine working your whole life, and your whole life doesn't matter, and what has more influence is a lying or deceptive woman who spread a little bit of gossip about you, and it could have been because you refused to cheat on your wife with this woman, because you were a good man and you refused to cheat. You had your whole life and your legacy and maybe your family name for generations thrown out the window. I mean, this is how disadvantaged men are. This is literally how disadvantaged men are, that you could literally have your legacy, your whole life, a whole generation thrown off simply by a simple gossip, or a simple inconvenience, or assumption, or gossip, or even a dream of a woman at any time. This is how disadvantaged men are. Let's continue. I think I'm going off the bars a little bit here. But again, women really don't even have children that often anymore. Again, we're still on the second point about, MGTOW people need to talk about counter. We're not a counter-feminism movement, but there is some element to escaping the feminism movement that has so much power. But again, women in the past, they had children. They would actually teach those children. These days, women don't even know how to cook or clean themselves, and they don't have any real practical skills or much of any practical knowledge about anything, and they certainly don't care to teach kids that. I can't tell you how many times, the vast majority, almost all the times when a woman is responsible of taking care of the kids, the kids are not put in line. They're not given chores. They're not organized. They're not encouraged to be smart. They're not encouraged to read. They're not encouraged to talk about information or things. The house is little hellions are running around and essentially breaking and burning down the house because these women can't be bothered to stop watching soap operas and their little drama shows and listening to like K-pop and stuff. Again, no hate on the K-pop people. There you do have some fun music, but some of these women, they can't be bothered to cook, and then they expect you to come home, and the man who's worked all day, and for the man to come home and cook, because supposedly she's been working so hard all day, as she's been just sitting there watching TV, and she hasn't cooked or cleaned or done anything, and she can't even let the kids outside to run around as she watches them. She can't even let put the kids in the backyard and let them run around in the backyard as she makes a couple sandwiches and some cheap tea or like lemonade. And she can't even be bothered to, let the kids get a little bit of energy out or to talk to them. And so instead of, the children using their mental faculties and they're using energies, to think, a lot of these kids are just, just want to run or do something, physical. And that's, again, I'm getting off the rails a little bit again, but this is also one of the reasons why, so many teenagers get into trouble, is because the man is outside of the house working all day. And then, again, there is blame on some of the men. The men don't ask enough questions. The men don't hold the women responsible. But the women, the man assumes that the public schools and the mother is teaching the kids some of the basics, and the man is there to provide and encourage, to teach some actual, physical skills, maybe repair the car, do some of the plumbing, a little bit of electrician work around the house and make sure everything works. And, and then you wonder why these daughters are running out on you, and all these things, and then the man doesn't know why he's not quote unquote respected in the house, and all these things. But again, let's get back to MGTOW. I've gone off the rails again. This women are not willing to sacrifice like men have. It's funny that feminism again acts like it's fighting for equality and freedom and doing all these things. Women aren't putting in much of any effort. And women are still not sacrificing. Men are the ones who still continue to sweat and bleed for society and for culture and for society to work. It's I guess it could be a MGTOW strategy if all the plumbers and electricians and all these people step out of society, and as society starts to crumble, and we already are seeing where these college educated and art degrees and type of people who, again, they think that they are the contributors to society. They think they are the ones somehow building up society with their feel-good rainbows and all of this. And again, more power to you, to your lifestyle. If you are LGBTQ or whatever, more power to you in your lifestyle and your freedom. But if you think that if you're constantly talking about that and fighting for that, and if you think that that is just as important as somebody who is up, making sure your bridges don't collapse and that your power's on and that you have safe drinking water and that you can, have the basics of life so you can survive, I'm sorry, but those things are not as important as, men who actually provide and do the things that are actually essential. Again, more power to you, and your lifestyle and your freedom is very important. But the thing is, if you are a feminist, and if you are LGBTQ, or even black, or some of these other people who feel like they're minorities or disadvantaged, you are being used, and you're also being used against the MGTOW people. You're being used to ostracize and cast out and abuse these men. Again, who is really gaining from all this? Who is gaining all this power? Who's gaining the affluence? It's these bankers. It's these giant corporations. It's these politicians. Again, we should all be coming together to stop the politicians. Why are politicians paid in general? Why are politicians paid anything? They're supposed to be public servants. In the past, politicians were paid $0, and they should be paid $0. And it should be illegal for them to receive political donations. It should be illegal for them to receive political donations, and all donations should be made public. Not only can they receive money, but you can't even know where that money came from. It can come from China. It can come from Russia. That money can come from all kinds of corrupt organizations and people. And then your politicians are no longer. You voted for them. They promised you the world. but now they have actual monetary obligations, and if they want to have enough money for advertising, and to and to become fairly wealthy like they want to, now their obligations are not to you, they're to the people who actually pay them money. Do you see this? Do you see how this works? Politicians have now become a career, and that's one of the reasons why societies are being taken advantage of, and men are being taken advantage of. Again, lawyers as well, deep into the past, lawyers were also paid little to nothing, and they should be paid little to nothing. Lawyers is not being a lawyer is not a profession that should be paid, and things like taxpayers. I mean, not taxpayers, the CPAs, the public accountants, and the tax workers. That's also something that should be not paid. It should be very simple, where CPAs and tax workers, they don't even really need to exist. And as technology goes on, and technology goes forward, a lot of these jobs are also less and less needed. Again, as you can see, they'll allow technology to replace you. They will allow technology to replace you, and that's one reason they're trying to depopulate the world. If they were to replace all of your jobs and your lifestyle and make the world into a new robot utopia overnight, and there were millions and millions of people who were without jobs and without an income and couldn't adjust to the new normal, or the new reality, or maybe you hated robots and you didn't believe in robots. Maybe you would hurt the robots, or destroy the property, or hurt the businesses who did all of this, who fired you. They want to depopulate the population down enough to the point where there wouldn't be enough population to rebel against them. There wouldn't be enough extra people who would be even willing, if they were even able to. And they are moving so quickly is because this is their big opportunity. This is their big opportunity. They've taken over all the elections and all over the world, and now they're moving faster and faster to their big plans, and depopulation and control of the public, and then the merging of man and machine, and the man with the internet and technology. That's really one of their biggest goals, and one of the biggest things that they're going to do. Anyways, I'm off the track again. Let's talk about the next point. MGTOW does not fight for entertainment. I'm not saying that MGTOW people have to become actors. I'm not saying that MGTOW people need to get into the music industry or become teachers in public schools or education. But as you do move away from society, you lose all these powers of influence. You're not the politicians. You're not the people writing the laws. You're not the people who have affluence and power. Many people in MGTOW are the disadvantaged men, the men who are average looking or below average, the men who are making average money or below average. The truth is, a lot of MGTOW people are the forgotten men. The men who are, you're not bad. A lot of you men might be actually 6s and 7s. You actually might be fairly attractive, but you're not making 100,000. You're not making $1 million. And now that you found that you want a simpler life and that you want to be treated fairly, but again, the women want the 6 and the 7s, the 8, 9s, and 10s, who are also very wealthy and affluential. And again, they get to be as picky as they want to. They can say you have to be a certain religion. They can say you have to be a certain eye color. They can say that you have to speak a certain language and act the way they want you to, be a gentleman, or have a certain lifestyle. They can say that you can't drink whole milk. It has to be skim milk. And they can say that you can't. And they can make all the rules. I just made that up about milk because I've seen some people who have crazy reactions about whole milk. It's really funny. Anyways, women, they get all their entertainment, and they are the ones who are pushed up and pedestalized to these positions, and these governments use them. And again, even if you were to get these positions as actors and entertainers in the music industry, a lot of you men, to get to those really high positions of affluence, you probably would have to sacrifice your your own creativity and your own style and what you love to get to that point. So again, I'm not encouraging you to do that, but you as a MGTOW, if you do want to change society or make society better, maybe you could find a way to become entertaining and get the message out. And maybe you could do entertainment and music and get involved with education in some way. It's important that you get your message out there. And again, I say these things not to, have men, take over, and not for men to manipulate things, but for men simply to be treated fairly. Men are not being treated fairly, and you need to express that. I mean, how many songs out there do we have to listen to Taylor Swift cry about how she wasn't treated fairly, as she was treated as a princess, and she's a multi-millionaire going out with like British superstars and people who could probably model. You as men out there, your stories are not being told, and your stories might be forgotten. And I don't want your stories to be forgotten. I want your legacy to be put out there, even if you do have a fairly sad story to tell. And some of you do have some sad stories to tell. And the life is not always so happy. It's not always so fun. The next point I wanted to make is that MGTOW gives up on the purple pill men. And again, most men, even as the quote-unquote red pill or the quote-unquote MGTOW people continue, most men are going to, even if you get most people on board, even if you were able to get the majority of men, they still would be purple pill. A lot of them are blue pill and probably aren't going to even change from that. But a lot of men are not going to be willing to sacrifice the feeling and the fun that they can enjoy or potentially have with a woman. That, men on crack, a woman and having that fun to a lot of you men, that's the reason why you have a job or a career. That's the reason why you do anything. That's the reason why you live, is to simply just have some fun. I'm not trying to rein in MGTOW and make it more neutral or bring it to the middle and quote unquote make it less extreme or something like that. I'm trying to say that MGTOW does need to make perhaps a little bit more content that addresses the purple pill men, the men who are in still want love, who are in marriages. Maybe some of these men are still in happy marriages, but maybe they've been cheated on or suspect they've been cheated on, or they might they might have a happy marriage and where the woman potentially might even be loyal, but they worry about that they could lose everything, that they could lose the house and the kids because of the whim of a woman. I read an article and heard about a story just the other day where a man and a woman were married for 14 years. And the woman supposedly had seen a guy, just saw him with her eyes. Never dated him, never talked to him. But supposedly she never forgot this guy who just gave her a look. Like, I don't know, 12 years. It was 2 years after their marriage. So I'm assuming that it was more than just a conversation. I'm assuming that this woman actually cheated, but she made it out to be that, maybe they just had a conversation or flirted. I think it was more than just eye contact. But anyways, supposedly somehow 14 years later, this woman comes across him. Again, I don't think anything's much of a coincidence these days. I think that she either messaged him on Facebook or Twitter or some kind of way where she could get in contact with an old flame, possibly through her friends. Anyways, she ran off and divorced and got rid of a 14-year marriage. And you as a man could have thought that was a perfect marriage and could have been extremely happy and thought that everything was fine, and you're working and sacrificing and doing everything that you can. And, she just leaves a guy supposedly just because she had the feelings and the tingles for a guy that she just saw, 2 years after your marriage, and you've been married for 14, and just for a whim. And then the guy supposedly dumped her. That guy was probably a player, probably was really attractive, probably a real smooth actor. And, just ditched her. He didn't want to marry her. He didn't want to have a full-time relationship with her. And then the woman's going to cry and try to probably come back to that marriage or act like she was a big victim. And this woman had the audacity to put this on, I think it was a blog or a newspaper or something, that put it out there that she was a victim and essentially, and that she was trying to get brownie points and move up in status and get some really high value men, also some new men to chase after her. You know, this woman thinks she's a hot commodity, she's a hot asset when she walked out on her husband and cheated on her husband and ruined the whole thing just because she wanted a little bit of fun with a stranger. A complete, I mean, she makes it out to be a complete stranger. Maybe it was, and that's possible too. You know, you know, especially if your wife goes out with the friends to a club or a girls' night out. You know, she could take a little drink, and she could have a relationship with where her best friend, her you know, going by. Again, more power to the people who are single. Again, some people keep thinking that I'm beating up on this, but again, women can do and act out and betray men in any type of possible way, and they act like it's not a big deal. You know, your wife having a relationship with her best friend, you know, a little bit of scissor action, and she thinks it's it's woman on woman, so it's not real. She can make any excuse she wants. She was either tipsy and she could cheat with a man or do whatever she wants, or you know, it's just with a woman. It's not really the same as cheating, and it's not really the same. It's not really the same thing, and then a lot of you men out there, I don't know how many marriages are actually loyal, but it's very few. Again, men tend to be much more loyal than women these days. They've been proving it, and it's sad. And again, I'm not trying to encourage divorces, but a lot of you men, I mean, you know that you know, when your woman goes out every Friday, or she wants a little bit of free time, and supposedly she's going shopping, and some of you men know that you're being cheated on. It's more than just a suspicion. You've seen the evidence. She's leading a double life. You do need to get out of those relationships. You do need to possibly get a divorce. And again, women get start the divorces about 80% of the time, 70 to 80% of the time. So who's, you know, and who's getting the advantage? You know, who's getting the advantages of divorces? You know, again, you know, that's not used as a metric or talked about. I mean, what if men started divorces just as much as women? What if it was 50-50? Would that be fair, women? What if men were divorcing women just as much? Would that be fair? They don't talk about that, and they don't talk about the reasons why divorces actually happens and take into considerations those kinds of things. So the next point is, as much as we talk about family law or divorce court, MGTOW don't raise their voice regarding the abuse and extortion of men by the state, lawyers, and women. Many women these days don't even know that lawyers are being aggressive. And again, some women do. Some women are talk to their lawyers and are ready to take as much as they can and want to take advantage of the situation. But a lot of these women these days, it's normal for lawyers to take everything from men. You don't even know that your wife, you know, she might not even have the worst of intentions. Again, they're probably worse than most men think, but some of them just sign the paperwork, and the lawyers tell them, "Oh, say this or do this, and we'll get you a little bit more. We'll get you all the rights to the kids, and the you know, the dad won't be able to visit the kids, or you'll get a little bit more money if you say that he was a little bit abusive towards you or abusive towards the kids." And all these things happen very regularly. And you know, we as men don't talk enough about the divorce courts. Again, a lot of quote-unquote red pill or MGTOW people have been divorced and gone through the ringer. You know, they've gone through that traumatic experience, but we as don't talk about, you know, the real problem. I mean, women certainly are a part of all this, but again, with the governments and the global organizations and the things that I've mentioned, the lawyers and our legal system with the so-called family court really is the problem. Again, family courts shouldn't even exist. These things shouldn't even exist in the first place. I mean, why does the government have the right to decide who gets, who gets child support, who doesn't get child support, or how much child support is paid, who has the right to the kids? Why is that decided upon by the government? Again, the government has far too much power and influence and takes advantage. Again, lawyers should be paid nothing. Lawyers and CPAs and many of these public type jobs should be paid little to nothing. And again, if they did even get paid anything, they shouldn't be paid as much as a plumber or electrician or a construction worker who actually do something of value, or people who produce tools and things of importance. Isn't that right? I think so. Anyways, as men, you know that you're going to be responsible and on the hook for child support. I mean, where's the 50-50? You'd be amazed. A lot of you men have never looked into this. They don't sit down and talk about what a kid. They know the average cost for a kid, like in a certain city, maybe with demographics and again, they take into account the woman's lifestyle and what lifestyle you used to have, and they don't make things 50-50 where the woman has to pay 50%. It's all the responsibility of the man, and then you have to take into consideration the current lifestyle of the woman. If men talked about more of these issues, more women would be fairly sympathetic and be willing to understand. And again, I'm not trying to subvert or take over the MGTOW movement and suggest that women need to become our leaders or speak for us or as our spokeswomen and things like that. I'm trying to say that maybe people would start speaking out and understand the plights and the problems and the damages that are being done if people would actually understand. I mean, how many of you men who have been divorced? I mean, I've heard very few of your stories. I'd like to hear your stories. Please message me down below if you'd like to share your story with me, and get in contact with me, and I can send you my email, and perhaps we can read your story. And that's something I want to do on this channel, and I will be doing on this channel, is sharing your stories of divorce. And I know some of them are going to be heartbreaking, but again, things aren't 50-50. Things have never been 50-50. And as we expose these types of things, maybe people will wake up a little bit more. And I'm sure that you've heard of some of the more extreme cases where a man became a very famous actor or became a very powerful person, got a really good job, became a famous actor or politician or a superstar, an athlete or something like that. And then all of a sudden the woman divorces, and they adjust that level of child support to what he was making at the highest point of his life. And a lot of the times, once the man gets divorced, especially if she gossiped or caused a controversy, he might get fired, he might get demoted, or might be seen as a less reliable man. Again, we don't talk about that in society. People, who are human resource and hire people for jobs, they still see a man as much more reliable and dependable if he's married. You're much less likely to get hired if you're a single man. And you might tell me that, oh, that's hogwash, and I've seen lots of men, who are single get decent jobs and all this. But I'm telling you, the people who actually make the decisions, depending on what kind of job you're getting, in corporate jobs and positions where they want you to stay there for a long time and build up the company, they will put you at the very bottom of the list, or even outright refuse to hire you if you're a single man. And the older you are as a single man, the more they hold this against you. The more they hold it against you. That's the truth of it. And we don't talk about these kinds of things. And again, getting back to that, them adjusting the child support based on that man becoming really wealthy, and then the woman possibly sabotaging or destroying his career, they're going to adjust that. And some of these women are getting child support, payments of like $100,000 a month. from men who, got fired because of that woman. And then they lose everything, and they can't make those payments because they don't have that kind of money. They sell everything, and they lose everything that they ever had, because supposedly, the child support has to be $100,000 or more. Why should any man, again, and then we wonder why you're being replaced. We're importing more and more people who are born into the USA. More people are imported into the USA, and also people who invade this country are allowed to come into the USA, and then their children, once they're born onto American or a lot of these Western countries' soil, then they're actually considered a citizen, and they are given all kinds of benefits like special loans and handouts and special programs, and they're considered disadvantaged, and all these cities will throw free food and little programs, and then they are celebrated and encouraged, and you are considered a very, very bad man, and you just want to be treated fairly and not get divorced and not have all of your and all of your money stolen from you, and you can't even have a normal life. That's not shocking. And then we're about to become, a lot of these Western countries are about to become as bad as England. It happened, I think, about 7 years ago, and a lot of people didn't even talk about it, but there was a man. He's a little bit older. He's probably 40, 45, and he probably didn't have a great education. Maybe he didn't even have a college degree, and he said that he couldn't get work, and nobody would hire him because he was competing against all these other people who would not only take lower pay, but because they were considered quote-unquote minorities, they were given preferential treatments in regards to hiring, and he couldn't get a job anywhere. Nobody would hire him, no matter where he went, no matter how cheap he worked for, he was willing to be underpaid. He was literally begging for work, and people acted like he was strange, and acted like he was a shocking and a bad person. It's just like with the government, like with Chile. If you don't know, with Chile, they brought in all these salmon farmers, and they accidentally released a bunch of them into their ecosystem, and they're destroying their natural rivers and habitats, and they didn't get fined or shut down. You as a man can be shut down in public or get fired from your job, again, just because you've inconvenienced a woman or made a woman feel uncomfortable. But the Chilean government can actually destroy an ecosystem for their bringing money into the country and making these politicians tons of money for salmon farming in Chile. That's literally going on right now, and that's been going on for years, about 5 to 10 years. Who's held accountable and who's not held accountable? Again, if you as a man do anything that the woman doesn't like, again, you don't even have to cheat. A woman can divorce you for irreconcilable differences, or just for anything. You don't even have to do anything wrong. You can be the perfect man, and she can walk out on you for any reason. So I wanted to mention that, and I talked about the divorce courts is, again, more people would be understanding if we talked about these types of things. But again, women say that we need to open up and share our emotion, and share our truth and all of this. But if you talk about divorce courts, if you talk about that you're a downtrodden man and that you've been taken advantage of, you talk about that as a man you tried to build up society and be nice and kind, and all that have experienced is feminists being mean and bitter to you. They don't listen to you. They don't care about you. And a lot of you men have never experienced a hug outside of your mother. A lot of you men out there have never, again, some of you men are average or even a little bit above average, and you just can't get a date, even if you're not socially awkward, even if you have confidence. It's, you really just can't even get one. And then, women are the victims. Women, of course, are the victims. So let's talk about the next point. Another point is that women are able to be wild with their expectations of dating. And MGTOW people don't talk about this enough. They do talk about it quite often, with the 3 6s, as they say, the 6 foot tall, the dark and handsome, the 6 figure income, and all of that, and some of these women have these expectations, and they're average or even below average. Some of them are very short, and they won't date a man. I'm sorry about that. They won't date a man unless he's taller than 6 foot. I mean, there's been on record where a woman's 5 foot short, or just 5 foot tall. She's below average height, and she won't date a man unless he's like 6'4" or taller. It would be settling for her to date a man who's 6'2". If she dates you and you're 6 foot tall, oh, she's really settling, and she's ready and willing to drop you and cheat on you, even though you're a highly desirable man, just in regards to your height, and she should be very disadvantaged, no matter how good looking she is. And again, she's probably just average looking, or maybe a little bit pretty, and you're probably, even if you're not the best looking guy and you're 6'4", you're still far more attractive than she is. But again, men are not taught about what's attractive and what's not attractive. You're not told to say no. You're not supposed to understand the social dating game. You as a man, you're taught to be completely clueless on, how attractive you can be or should be. And women like to keep men in the dark, to take advantage of them in all kinds of ways. And, these expectations are things beyond your control. Again, men, especially in the past, were told to look for love and for romance, but women have these expectations that are physical, that sometimes you can't overcome. A man can't magically make himself 6 foot tall or taller than 6 foot, or grow a couple inches in height, or down there, for his third leg, as they say. You can't. You can't magically make any of that bigger. You can't change your eye color, or a lot of these things that they demand. They can't. You can't magically make your hair, I don't know, significantly more big or flashy or attractive. With some of these women who expect you to have, extremely big hair or something, or long hair, or once you get older, if you're losing hair, they won't tolerate any of that. It's Again, this isn't me complaining about average men being left out. It's more about there's not a balance of things. There's nothing fair. Again, single mothers who are unattractive and sometimes have tons of tattoos, again, more power to you if you want to have tattoos, but some of you have tons of tattoos. It makes it so you're unhireable, and makes it so, you're probably damaged or very emotional, showing, literally wearing those emotions on your sleeve. And some of these women are into their 30s and 40s, and again, they're single mothers, and they have these types of expectations. These women who are 30s, single mothers, average looking, and think a well-dressed gentleman, who's also, supposed to be traditional, who also is going to share in the same level of the housework. He's going to cook and clean and do just as much as she does around the house. He's going to take care of the kids just as much as she does, and he's got to work, and bring home the bacon. Again, some of these women are willing to work. Some of them aren't. Some of these women just want to expect to sit home, and the man has to bring home everything, or he has to bring in a lot more money than she does. Probably double, probably triple the amount. It's usually the man has to make triple the amount of money that the woman does. So if a woman's working an average job, she's making $20,000-$30,000. She expects you to be making 70, 80, 90 at least. And if she's a kind of fairly successful woman, 50 to 75, she wants $150,000 man. If she's making $100,000 or $150,000, she wants you to be making $500,000 upwards of $1 million. And again, these types of expectations are never challenged. They're never opposed. You're never told no. They're never told no. Most of these women have never been told no in their entire lives. And that's why I mention all this, is because, if you men started balancing out the dating game, and where you were telling women no, rejecting women just as much as you've been rejected. Again, some of you men don't have the opportunity to reject, because you'd be happy to date just about anybody. You've never really had much of an opportunity, or you've always been told no. Um, but these attractive, affluential men, they're running through these women. They have all the options. They have hundreds of text messages and hundreds of messages on their Instagram from young, attractive women. They have, some of these attractive, successful men, upcoming men. They have all the choices in the world, and they'll date down and have fun with a woman who's average looking or maybe just a little bit pretty, just for fun. And that's where the problems are coming in. You know, you as a man, I'm not saying that we all need to become traditional and monogamous and just have marriage with one man and one woman and all this, but if we want things to be fair, or for people to be given a real balance of things, not only do the affluential wealthy men have to maybe want to date within their own sphere, or date within their own social class or wealth, or find maybe that one person. More power to them. I guess they're having. I know that they're having a lot of fun out there, but it would make things a lot better for everybody if they did that. But not only are the men to blame, of course the women are. When these alpha widows, or these women who are average looking, but when they were 18 and 19 and fun and perky and playful, and they had some fun with a man who was making 100,000 or 200 or maybe million, again, some of them got some famous men, and they signed some non-disclosure agreements, and they really like that's really fun. These women are spoiled. They think that they deserve a famous man. They had a famous man once. They had a rich man once. And if they settle for somebody like you, who might be actually a successful man, if you're making $75,000 a year, you're fairly successful. Even a $50,000 man is doing pretty well, and you're both about the same level of attractiveness, about average, maybe a little bit more attractive. Depending on where you live, 50 to 100,000. Well, she knows that she dated one time a man who made 250, or a man who made 100,000. And a lot of these women also, it was more than she just dated. She might have had a lot more experience than just one or twice. She might have been an escort. A lot of these upcoming women, they don't even really date anymore. They're becoming cam girls and OnlyFans girls and escort girls to the highest bidder. Most of these modern women, again, I was born in the 90s, but if you're an upcoming generation, it's a whole different world. Most of these women haven't even dated, and if they have dated, it's all been about for money or affluence. And some of these women, again, I don't want to complain about the leftism too much, or this modern progressivism, but I talked to a woman, and she was kind of becoming 25, and I thought she was kind of cute and attractive, and she was telling me that she drove across the country 2 hours. It took her 2 or more hours. It might have been 4 hours, and I think she did it at night, and she's talking about how she was possibly scared at one point. Maybe she drove through the rain. A woman is willing to get lost, drive in the dark, go through the rain, drive to a state, maybe even drive across to a new country, if she thinks you're attractive or fun enough. Really. But so you as a man, when she was willing to do those things for an affluential man, or somebody who, or a new experience. And again, you as a traditional man, especially if you want a marriage, we in this society, you have to be vocal about what you want and potentially find somebody who's like you, because it's going to be tough finding anybody who's like you. Again, you might find somebody who you think is friendly, or quote unquote, wants to work with you, which these people these days would say is submissive, which is somehow really really bad thing. And I mentioned the little bit of leftism there a second ago, is because this woman drove across the country at night for a couple hours, to a state she'd never been to, and she drove there to the to this, and it was I think it was a trans person of some sort, and supposedly she thought this trans, I don't know if it was a he, they, him, she, I don't know, I don't know the pronoun, anyways, and thought that was the best experience that she had ever had. So the new generation of men, we need to adapt as MGTOW to what's going on in men's lives. Also, if we're gonna talk about dating, we have to talk about what's going on today. And a lot of the new generation Z and these types of people on TikTok, if you're as a man or a young man, you're competing for women who have had, you know, the half of them or more of them are bi. A lot of them, and they're willing to drive across the country for somebody who's fun or famous or affluential, and they're trans or whatever, and then they think they're a better lay or better fun in bed than you, and you're a traditional man. You're just boring. I mean, you're just a basic glazed donut as a guy, and they probably want to put on a strap on and take care of you. Take care of you, if you know what I'm saying. And that, I mean, we need to be talking about, as if we are MGTOW or Red Pill or whatever, we need to be actually talking about what's actually going on in the world of people's lives. Again, it is important that we keep talking about the same messages that are still relevant and get the word out, but you have to adapt and make things somewhat relevant and somewhat somewhat understandable as well. So again, with the dating, I'm not suggesting that all men just become, expect traditionalism or fight for marriage. Societies do change, but you need to figure out what what you want as a man and what's going to work for you as a man. And if you do want children, it's going to be tough, and it's going to be really tough, and you have to figure out what's going to work for you and what you would like as a man, especially in regards to that kid. If you're going to let that single mother raise that kid, who's going to put that kid in daycare, who's going to put that kid in public school, who's going to go to college, again, all at your expense, and this kid is going to be raised to be another liberal arts degree. I mean, what's the point? And then they hate your guts. They want to destroy capitalism and all these things. I mean, what's the point of having a kid? What's the point of having a kid if that's the kind of experience that you're going to have? So you need to start asking lots of questions. And even if you are very attractive and influential and wealthy, you need to say no. You need to say no, no, no. And you men out there who maybe are a little bit red-pilled or somewhat red-pilled or purple-pilled need to maybe start taking actions. And I'm not saying get rid of your friends who are leftist or even feminist. I'm not saying get rid of them. I'm not saying oppose them. I'm not saying fight them. I'm saying that you need to have your own space of peace and establish your own lifestyle outside of that. Again, Red Pill is not teaching men to be influential, and also to even have your own little your own space. I guess you could say your safe space, an actual space for men. Again, people joked about man caves because men had no spaces, and men used to have bars and go to bars and have friends at the bar and talk about things in the country clubs and stuff like that. But we don't really have that for men anymore, and that kind of stuff is demonized and targeted. You as a man need to get into meditation. I'm not saying that you have to get into Buddhism or anything crazy like that. You might want to look into Buddhism or Stoicism. I think it would be good if you looked into philosophy, like some Socrates or some Plato, and actually understand some of that. And then you can start to develop yourself the way you want to. Again, a lot of you guys were raised by single mothers out there, and even you men out there who had fathers in the household, they didn't teach you any real principles. They didn't really teach you any life lessons, and it's time that you actually stepped up and taught yourself some principles. Again, I'm not trying to get the MGTOW or the Red Pill people to step into conservatism or traditionalism or Christianity or something like that. I'm trying to get people to actually, form maybe a little bit of structure, because a lot of people in MGTOW don't have much of structure. It's just something that you're lacking in your life. Again, it's it is good to, when you step back and you have that sense of distance and you've escaped, and and you kind of want some structure to your life. Again, it's kind of good to have, get to the point where you have your own logic, and you test things, and you learn things, and you figure out things on your own. I'm not saying depend on a book or find somebody, a new leader, or somebody to believe in or trust in. I'm saying that you could find some good ideas that might lead you a little bit more into a good direction, and that could be your hobby as well. You could get into different types of science, and real philosophy. I'm not saying the modern philosophy, which is complete garbage, and you could start looking into things that are actually technical, and help structure your life a little bit, in one way or another. So I think that's very important. A lot of MGTOW people don't give a lot of men structure. They tell you to separate. They tell you to go your own way. They tell you to distance yourself. But then maybe you have a few friends in the MGTOW, and maybe on Reddit, and a few of these people, and that brotherhood or that friendship can be a wonderful thing, and is important. But is it really, really doing enough for you to change or improve your life, or to possibly, if you want to make the world a better place? I think that you need a little bit more direction than that, a little bit more. And I do encourage more men out there to have some sense of honor. Look into what honor actually is. You're going to set yourself up to some certain principles. You don't have to do anything like this if you don't want to, but maybe a principle that you like is something as basic as honesty. And if another man or woman's isn't willing to be honest and forthright, up front with you, you might want to walk away, or you might want to call them out, or you might want to have that as an important part of your character that defines you, and that's important to you. Maybe it's peace. It could be a lot of different things, but having that as something that you focus on and that you care about is going to motivate you to keep on going, and is a wonderful thing. Again, this has been my longest video. I think I've ranted and gone off a little bit too much, but let's talk about the next point. MGTOW encourages men to pump and dump. Again, I understand men getting out there and having their fun, getting their rocks off and all that. And again, I'm not saying that all men need to become traditional. If we do want families and to have healthy children, I do think that we as a civilization, our civilizations and societies, do need to seriously look at the damages and the serious consequences, the serious damages of feminism. But this is more about than just making feminists a little bit accountable. Are men accountable, also are accountable for this as well. Women wouldn't be playing the field and doing all this if men just said no to it all. And again, you might say, like, what kind of man says no to fun with women? Again, it all depends on your principles and your sense of honor and what's important to you. Again, I'm not talking about being religious or being a virgin or anything like that, but some of you men out there might want to wait for that significant other, that person. But even if you are want to be a virgin and wait for that special person, you need to know how to, have a relationship outside of governmental legal marriage, and you still need to not have one itis and be able to have control over, your life and maybe some of the situation. I'm not saying control the woman. I'm saying, for you people, feminist types, I'm saying, control your life and have a little bit of freedom for you to be able to walk away. Again, the woman can walk away whenever she wants and take the house and the bag and the money and the kids and the dog and everything else. A man needs to figure out a way to protect himself from losing everything that he's built, everything that he's earned, and everything that he has created with his own time and his money and his life. So, again, men, and this goes deeper. I mean, men playing the pump and dump game goes deeper. Again, as much as John Likas helped men to to have fun and to do their own thing, this this attitude of men it still puts women on a pedestal. It still puts women into a position of control where women are the ones who say yes or no. You know, again, a lot of feminist types would act like men are the abusers once they get 35 or 40 or 45 and actually start getting some wealth, and then they can start having fun with younger women. They would act like that's the most disgusting thing in the world. But that's still, you know, kind of unfair to men. Unless they're getting married and having kids and they have an agreement that works for the both of them. I mean, how is it fair to a man that he has to make himself affluential and famous and wealthy and keep his fitness up for like an average woman or these women out there who, you know, some of them, even when they're, especially when they're 18, 19, 20, can be very attractive and have the right proportions and the right look and have everything where it's supposed to be. And they didn't have to work out for that. It's like, that's the thing. They don't even have to work out, and they don't even have to eat good food to stay healthy. And then they're then they're, you act like they're the victim when they're literally given a silver platter. I mean, it's better. The women are given better than a silver platter. They're given a gold platter of information, of fact, and it's just it's unbelievable that people out there would act like these young women are the victims. I mean, yeah, some of these John Likas types and affluential men lead these younger women on, and they don't give them the money, or maybe some of them promise them marriage, and some. I mean, of course, there's bad actors, but again, they always make it out that the woman is the victim. And then these women are going to go out there and have these expectations and hold that over men that when I was 18, 19, 20, you know, these young women, that, you know, they got to go out with an affluential or wealthy or famous man, a man who, you know, owned a company, a man who wrote a book, a man who was an actor, a man who was a singer, a man who, you know, did something, you know, regarding global warming or whatever it might be that they think is important. You know, these women are, you act like that they're victims. It's simply amazing that you know, men are made to always be the perpetrators, no matter how much they give, no matter how much they work. Imagine if you as a man, you know, you held out and were looking for somebody fairly attractive or as attractive as you. You want some respect. You wanted somebody to have a little, you know, some fun with, and you as a man waited until you were 35 or 40 or 45, and then you were looking for marriage. Depending on how poor the situation is in the society, that used to be considered quite normal because it took a while for you to gain enough money so you could then, you know, build a successful family where you could, you know, hand over a business or give your kids a decent job or an education, and that you could give this woman a good lifestyle that she wanted. But then the woman's still a victim. And again, a man can't get anything. Again, essentially, what modern feminism is about making men unhappy and sometimes even women unhappy. If you've seen, there's been a march against skinny women, and skinny women are shamed. And again, they lie about it. They act like it doesn't happen. Skinny women are shamed, openly and publicly. You know, sometimes non-verbally with body language, but sometimes verbally as well. If you're a naturally skinny woman, you're kind of shunned. You're kind of pushed out of society, and they're trying to change beauty standards. If you're a model, if you're a supermodel, you know, there's a lot of these women who openly hate you. Again, these types of women also don't speak out against the feminist movement. So again, if we spoke about these types of things, if we had people unified and together, we could, you know, have more influence. You know, we could have more people, you know, understanding these types of issues. I mean, with this fat acceptance movement and these types of people who, you know, the new norm, you know, how many men, you know, can't find women who are in an average weight or at a healthy weight. And if you do date somebody who's at average weight or at healthy weight, especially if she's younger, then you as a man are seen as just a very, very bad person. It's almost as if this all of these things, the green, the global warming, and the fat acceptance and the feminism are like new age religions. If you don't sacrifice to them, of course the men are always the only ones who can truly be sinners, unless you're a traditional like home cooking woman. I mean, sometimes those women are attacked, but you know, it's really the men who are the only ones who can be the sinners. Because even the traditional women who cook and clean and take care of the children and want to do all of that, you know, they're still victims too. I mean, they just have internalized misogyny. You know, it's you know, if we had more people speaking out, we would have more of a voice, and we would have more influence. Anyways, this pump and dump type of thing doesn't help men have that type of power or that influence. And again, I mentioned it before, and I'll say it again, because men who are still trying to learn pickup game, and maybe they're a little bit more aware with red pill of the realities of things, and they use these things to their advantage, it just reinforces to modern women that men are abusive and manipulative. And these women are you know, most of them are on birth control, who I'll make a whole video about how this has completely changed society. But they're on birth control, and this reduces their drive. So not only do they have greater willpower to hold out, but they also have changed their biology so they can hold out more than you. So you as a man naturally have more of a desire, you know, more of a drive than she does. You're more turned on. You're more I mean, you see things, and you're more physically inclined. And the women then also decrease that, you know, what they naturally have. So you as a man are, you know, I mean, you have to struggle to control yourself, as women in general are going to be, you know, they control the situation by holding out, not holding out for marriage. They're not holding out. They're not virgins out here. They're holding out to have power over the situation, power over you, lead you on. You know, flirt. They can flirt with you. You know, they can put on a big flirt on, and get you going, but then they can control the situation because, you know, and that's how they play the game. That's you know, so women are willing to hold out for the most attractive men, the most successful men, and they're willing to really, really wait for somebody who they think is important. One of the most strange things that got me aware of this, this is kind of a phenomenon regarding this, is if y'all know how it works, that if a woman's interested in a man, then usually her whole friend group becomes fairly interested, and this is how, you know, women operate. They all get interested in one man, and in the past, you know, a influential or a powerful man would choose one or maybe a couple of those women, and then he would, you know, have a family with them, and then he would be kind of taken, and then maybe he would just maybe ignore or be too busy for the rest of those women. These days, these modern men, you know, they don't settle down, and all these women hold out for that desirable man, and they're even willing to do this. I've seen it happen. If they're caught up in their emotions, you can walk into a room or walk into a situation, and you can be just as attractive or more attractive than that man they all liked ever was, but they all have to go through like a stage of like grief. They have to go through like a stage of grief, and then they might shift their attention towards you if you are attractive enough or desirable enough as a man. It's quite strange, and that's happened to me. And I have been the most desirable man in the room. I have been the man with all the attention on him. But again, none of these women were as attractive as me, or you know, and I'm still not even rich. they were all arguably higher status than me in wealth and all these things, but they don't. None of them had the character or the honor or had any of the principles that I live for and I strive for. And we as a society, I mean, they don't care or to understand that or listen. And once I left, they all like grieved, and because I didn't even date any of them. I didn't mess with any of them. I didn't flirt with any of them. And you as a man need to do that. That puts women as more of a perspective to start understanding, to look for somebody who actually loves you, because, again, I have found women before, and again, I'm getting a little bit personal here. We'll get to some of my last points in this video. But I've found women that I thought were 1 out of 1,000, 1 out of 10,000, 1 out of 1,000,000 maybe. Not that they were necessarily the prettiest, but because I thought we had similar characters and personalities. But women these days don't look for that, and then they also assume that you as a man are just either lying, or that you are just an animal essentially. So then they don't give you a chance to even work and figure out if you have similar principles or similar lifestyle or a similar religion or core beliefs, or other things that you could base a relationship upon. And it's really difficult to see, have that we can't have a real authentic, that men and women just really don't have that type of connection anymore. They don't have those, we've really gone almost backwards, where almost everything's just quote unquote physical and based on money and influence and power. And those core qualities that you would build up with each other and care about each other, and nurture those qualities in each other, and nurture those qualities that also might be important to your family name and to your family legacy, and that you would encourage and raise with your children. That's no longer valued. We don't even have that perspective anymore. That's an alien concept. That is an alien concept to most modern women and men, and just in general. It's a foreign concept. So the next point I wanted to make, we're getting closer to the end here, is MGTOW fails to help men to reach for and become successful. Again, not all MGTOW. Maybe you have a desire to have a peaceful life, less stress. You've been through a lot. Maybe you've been divorced. Maybe you just want to have a peaceful life now. I understand that. But I think that MGTOW would have more success if it encouraged men to be able to work through things financially to become financially successful, to be able to help men to understand the pitfalls and the greatest danger to their financial success or their financial lives. The greatest threat you as a man are probably going to experience, the biggest risk, is probably a woman. And it's not that loan, it's not high interest rates, it's not you failing your first business, which again, you have to probably fail in your first 2 or 3 businesses before you really make it, if and you have to take risk and all that. But the riskiest thing and the most dangerous thing of all is probably your relationship, and you should probably be very serious and exclude women. Again, I mention this because a lot of men out there, even in MGTOW with the red pill and all this, they're figuring ways to talk themselves into and talk women into the bedroom, or to have fun, Netflix and chill or whatever. And they're not helping men to actually find things that would satisfy them and actually have more benefit to their lives. And again, a lot of men, they just think of things in more of a physical sense, and again, that's my point. There's a lot more to life than just than just women, than just fun. And that is really what MGTOW should really be about. Again, a lot of MGTOW, they have maybe separated themselves from society or women, but they really haven't. They've separated themselves from society and the abuses and and some of the negativity of feminists and society, but they've not really separated themselves from women. And again, maybe men shouldn't completely separate themselves from women, but that you haven't been able to separate, control yourself regarding women. You know, if you want to become a successful man, you're going to have to start putting a lot more time into your career, into your own personal education, um, and into figuring out how to make your things work. Have some real success out there, because you as a man, colleges aren't going to tell you how to be successful. Uh, a lot of these businesses aren't going to hire you because you're a single man. You as a man are going to have to figure out how you want to have an impact, and what is success to you, and how you can overcome those challenges. And MGTOW needs to talk more about how to do that, because a lot of, again, getting men into the quote unquote red pill and MGTOW content is important, and a lot of men, we still need to get more and more men into this. But perhaps you could say this is more of an advanced topic, but we need to get more and more men focused on their lives and their happiness. Also, even if you are interested in a family and possibly, a relationship with a woman, the funny thing is, the more you focus on yourself, those women will put themselves in positions in front of you, because you're ignoring them or not putting your attention on them. They can't be ignored. These women cannot stand it that you're working. You didn't even take a glance at them. You didn't even look their way when they walked in the room. You didn't take a side eye at them. They can't stand that a man actually is ignoring them and is actually focused or enthralled, dedicated to, some kind of passion. And often those types of men who are, more focused or able to focus on a passion often become more successful. So there's a number of reasons, beyond even ego. Again, a lot of these women are egotistical or narcissist, and that might get you in the door. So again, I'm not saying to use this as a dating strategy, but that is one of the things that actually works. Again, MGTOW focuses too much on women, and a lot of good would be done for men and for society if men weren't so hyper focused on women. And again, I'm not trying to encourage traditional marriage, but for the people who do want it, that would encourage maybe a little bit more of that. Some of these women, especially if they were average looking, and maybe they could have a little bit of fun with a football star or a baseball star or an athlete here when they're younger. But if they start getting ignored, especially in their 20s or 25, I mean, imagine how society would change. And we're not even talking about the 30 or 35 when they start complaining. Some of these, the really unattractive and unwealthy, these poor single mothers. I'm not taking sympathy. I'm saying poor as in, they ain't got no money. These types of women, when they start complaining, we're talking about, imagine if women were 25 or even 20 and they were complaining that they didn't get much of attention as they wanted or deserved. That's really what should happen. And again, I'm not trying to say that women shouldn't be seen as attractive. Again, some people try to make these types of things like beauty contest as victimization. Beauty contest for women is privilege, for them. They put them on a pedestal. It makes them more valuable or more desirable to men. And that's not victimization. That's privilege for a woman. And the more, men are able to step outside, towards those hobbies and towards those passions, they'll be in more control over their desires. You don't have to settle. I've seen weak men, marry, really unattractive women, and then they're like stuck with them, and you can tell that they're in a terrible situation, but they won't leave the situation because they don't think they can, or they don't want to put in the effort, or they can't find maybe somebody who out there that they could marry or have a better relationship in. And they're such weak men that they think that they should serve this woman, and especially once they have a kid with that woman, and they're browbeat into submission. I've seen tons of weak men like that out there. Even if you're not a particularly tall man or particularly strong man, I would really like for you to, have a sense of identity and a sense of purpose, and, not desperately go, for these women. Again, it's going to be difficult because there's a trend going on, I hope these ideas are all connecting, because all this is interconnected. I mean, people think the birth rates are bad now. We have an increasing shift. Again, they're not doing real studies. A lot of studies are 10 or 20 years in the past. A lot of studies are really irrelevant, and they're not even made correctly. We're quickly becoming, like some of these countries, like Japan, where there's all these expectations and demands, and even in Japan, where a lot of these girls can still act girly and flirty and cute, there's still a lot of them are feminists. Most of them are. And these demands are put on these men. And the men, I'm not even talking about the herbivore men exactly, who want to separate themselves. Men are becoming virgins until 25 and 30, even if they're not even looking for marriage. Even if they're not holding out, they're simply rejected. If you are an average looking, or, your average height, your average making average money, forget about it. You have to date way down to somebody who's really unattractive, maybe has disabilities, or a single mother who's like 35, and then she's and with a couple kids, and then she thinks she's settling for you. That's like the best some of these guys can get. If you're like average height, average looks, average all around. Again, the average woman are willing to either become a part of a harem, or a group, a groupie for the affluential men, and you're left with scraps, and you're left with nothing. And you men out there, it's going to be really tough for you, because again, I was born in the 90s. So my experience is going to be different from a lot of these younger men coming up in the generations. A lot of these newer men who are born in the 2000s, they don't know what it's like to have women or talk to a woman, and for her to potentially want to have a relationship or have some fun, or in these types of interactions. Again, some of you watching my content here are in the, you might have been born in the 80s or the 70s, where there wasn't a lot of technology, or before a lot of this internet and all these things. Really, again, this is all about the market. The dating market has gone global, and men have not started to accept that. And it's really made women's hypergamy explode, because there's all these potentialities, all these wealthy men. Again, in the past, a woman might have the opportunity to date a lord or a king, or a duke, or somebody in their area, or somebody who was a leader, somebody affluential, somebody who owned a business. But she might only be able to see or meet or maybe come across a couple of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe she's really affluential and goes to big parties, and maybe at a big marriage celebration, she might see, a dozen of these men. But there weren't that many. These days, they can go on the internet, and they can find hundreds of athletes, and especially if she's attractive, she can offer herself and be an escort, and paid tons of money by, just about anybody who's wealthy or affluential in the world. So this hypergamy has gone global, and again, that's not and that some people make that out to be really bad. The problem comes into is really with women's expectations. Again, if they talk to or go on one date, they think that they can marry that kind of man. And again, they don't, when they maybe could, some of these women actually could get some of those men and actually could settle down with them, especially when they're in their younger years, they're 19 or early 20s. Instead, they continue to play the field, and then they expect to be able to get that same quality man once they hit 30 or 35. That's the real problem here. And if they would have just settled down, these women, and with that man, when they were that much younger, and had fun, and built a family, maybe built a relationship that actually meant something, that actually mattered, they would be so much happier. And that also possibly or potentially would take that valuable man off the market, and then that man, would be possibly settle down with that woman. But these days, those types of men don't settle down, and then they keep playing the field. And these men, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, with all of their money and their influence, they're going to play the field and until they die, pretty much. I'm not trying to make it out like they have the best life in the world. I mean, I can only imagine the risks of diseases and everything else going on. And to me, it's, if you don't have love and dedication, I don't know, maybe it works for them. But you as men out there, I mention all that because a lot of you men might think that that would be wonderful or the best thing ever. That's something that you're trying to become rich or famous, or because that's what you want. More power to you. Some of you men might do that. But what is really going to make you actually successful and actually happy is, living according to your own principles and your own lifestyle, and finding what brings you inner satisfaction, or maybe a sense of peace. That's what's really going to make the world a better place, and make your life much, much better. So let's talk about number 10 and then my final thoughts. This is a very long video, very, very long, and I hope that you're enjoying it. It's from the heart. Number 10 here, MGTOW ultimately, this is a big one. I'm going to read it more like a paragraph because I wrote this out. Let's see here. MGTOW ultimately fails to help men realize their potential. Although I do agree that aspirations and desires and goals can be very personal, I think that a man can be successful and happy without kids, building up society and serving others. Yeah, you don't necessarily have to do those types of things to be happy. I do think that they're important, but you don't have to. They can bring happiness, and I do think that for many men, it is something that you naturally biologically want. It's something more than just what was taught to you in songs and music and religion. I think that there is some beauty in that. But I also do think a man needs a mission and a purpose. I think that you need a purpose in life beyond just kids and beyond family. Again, you can work hard and sacrifice everything for your family and everything. But if you as a man, even if you were able to find a good woman, and even if she did like you and was loyal to you, which would be this would be a miracle in the modern day. And then maybe you had kids who also were decent kids, and this would all again be a miracle. The problem comes in if you're not fighting for your own mission and purpose. I mean, again, all of these organizations are just going to use and abuse you and take advantage of you with your taxes and your kids, and teach you and try to mold you into what's going on in our modern society today. With leftism and wokeism and all these things. They're going to take advantage of you and your family and your kids. So you need to have a mission and a purpose that makes sense to you, that makes, seems right to you. And you need to be willing to stand with those principles and maybe stand with those people who also have similar ideals to you. And this might be something might be completely different than MGTOW or Red Pill. I'm talking about here everything from culture, to certain rituals in your culture and things that matter to you, and they might not even be religious. Like it could be anything. It could be a candle ceremony, or something like to respect your ancestors. I mean, it could be anything, but. Anyways, MGTOW, my next point is MGTOW does not, or this is a part of the last big point, MGTOW does not encourage men for them to be happy. That's one of my biggest issues here, and really what this whole thing is about is men need to be happy. Again, women are seeking their own happiness, and maybe some of them are being happy. Maybe that some of them are happy once they become 35 or 40 and they become cat women. A lot of women are doing that, and they don't really seem to complain. But the ones who complain are the ones who don't have a lot of money, and think that they should get even more than what they have. Those, funny enough, those are the ones who are complaining. The really successful women aren't complaining that much. The women who are having lots of fun, aren't complaining. Again, the women who got married, most of them aren't complaining, at least for now, because they'll get divorced if they have a complaint. Then they'll get their money and run, anyways. But men aren't encouraged to be happy. Again, it is good to do a wake-up call and get men invested, and expose these feminists and people who openly hate you and openly say and do these crazy things. But I think that more and more red pill MGTOW content needs to be about talking about how men can be actually happy. Because if your content isn't encouraging men to be happy, I mean, what is it doing? What's the real value of it? So the next point is their creativity and passions have been used. Any production of something is being taxed, and they're even coming for unrealized assets. Yes, you as a man have been used and abused throughout history. Be willing to talk to your friends or people in college. Talk to them about these kinds of things. Again, you might be outcasted. They might hate you. But at least try. And they're coming for your unrealized assets. Again, if you don't fight for freedom here, and again, there is some value in just wanting peace and just wanting to escape. But if you aren't willing to fight for freedom here, as these governments become, more and more powerful, they're going to come after your unrealized assets. Maybe you grow your own vegetables, or you decide to figure out a way to produce something on your own. You're not selling it, and maybe you're not even trading it. You're just producing something that benefits you, and you enjoy it, and you like it. Solar power to power your house. It could be a lot of things. They're going to be coming after you, in every possible way. And of course, this won't be used against women. This will be probably used to benefit women. Anything that they do to supposedly raise children. And of course, men don't do anything to raise children, but women's like comforting and support and what they supposedly do for children will be counted as just as valuable or just more valuable than men, and then they'll get even more and more assets as well. And maybe, again, they'll be paid for things that really bring no benefit to society at all. They're kind of fighting for that kind of stuff. They really are. Like volunteers should be paid just as much or more, than you, again, who are essential. Some of you men who do essential work for society. Anyways, the next point is if men want to be, and if MGTOW wants to be happy, then we have the power to say no to societies, communities, and biology, families, and women, is only the beginning. Yeah, you men need to be able to say no, or figure out how to say no. If something you think is valuable, if your religion has been co-opted by feminism or feminists, if that leaks into your religion, maybe you need to speak out or oppose them. If your community has been infected by feminism, speak out, or just walk away. If women aren't being fair, you can't find somebody who's just as attractive as you, or a similar social status, or meets your basic basic needs. Again, a woman can say her basic needs are 6 foot tall or 6'2", $100,000, and dark, mysterious, and handsome, and all this. You as a man can't even say that you have basic needs, and we're not even talking about men who demand a certain height or a certain breast size. We're talking about men who just want somebody who is just nice. I mean, it'd be a miracle if you as a man could just find somebody who looked decent enough for you and was friendly, and that would be a miracle, pretty much. But anyone who is encouraging, let me read this point here. MGTOW must be a beacon of hope More than just escapism. Not only do dating gurus and pickup artists need to be exposed, but anyone who is not encouraging men to be happy, um, you know, those people are probably not even MGTOW people. If you're a MGTOW person who's just focused on women and teaching you the game, or teaching how women weave or work, and teaching you, how to adapt to the crazy dating scape, women are just going to continue to use and abuse you. You as a man need to be able to say no. Put out your expectations, and a lot of the time, women are just going to avoid you or oppose you. And that's why you can go to another country, or you can eventually become wealthy and affluential enough where you can just, pay an escort off. And I guess that's the way you're going to have to do it if you want to. But you as a man need to be able to say no, and seek out those who make you happy. Don't pay for these dating courses, and listen to these men who, tell you how to capitulate or how to give or date to these modern women. It's a big waste of time. It's a big waste of effort, and it's really funny too, because again, some of these people who do this, who are frauds, like Donovan Sharp, I've seen a list of supposedly some of the real hotties that they've dated. These were supposedly amazing women, and he met these women in Las Vegas. Most of these women they're just street girls, and they're just pay girls. They're not women who you've had actual serious long-term relationships with, and most of them were not even pretty. They were like average, or maybe a little bit above average. They were equal to him in attraction, which is decent, which is fair. But he brags about them and those kinds of women, and they were average or maybe slightly above average. They certainly weren't anything special to me, and I think most men. And it's really shocking as well. I'm just mentioning a quick story here with my final thoughts. I helped him. I tried to help a man as he went through divorce one time, and I gave him some basic of advice, but he was just mad at me that I was aware of these things, and I tried to help him, and then he tried to be vindictive to me, because I had not gone through a divorce and I had not lost a lot of my money in these types of things. He tried to be vindictive against me, and the really strange thing is that before all this happened, he tried to send a picture of his wife to me and like brag about how good looking she was. And maybe she was good looking when she was younger and when they first met, before they got married. But I have to tell you that this woman was definitely below average to me, way below average. And he thought that she was he thought that she was smoking, and extremely attractive, and he was and I'm not trying to necessarily put down on this guy either, because this guy was dating down as well. He was dating way down. Again, maybe when they first dated, she looked a lot better, and once they got married, she really put on the pounds. I'm not sure, but and some of these things, it wasn't just the weight. He was really dating down. And that was really shocking to me. A lot of you guys out there are dating down, dating way down, and again, that's why I keep saying that you men need to say no. You need to say no, 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 no. You need to be the cat that says no, 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 because these if you kind of start paying attention and put your mind in the frame of mind of kind of if you are looking for beauty and looks, like out of a 1 out of 10, you can start quickly seeing, and kind of, and it's all based on your perspective and what you like and what you don't like. But again, to me, a 9 is essentially a perfect, and it's a lot of people say 10 out of 10 is a perfect, but I say a 9 is a perfect, and a 10 out of 10 is somebody who's not only, kind of a perfect specimen with body and shape and uniformity and health. They're healthy and all that, but a 10 out of 10 also meets all of your you know, your physical likes, and something that's really personally attractive to you. Because a 10 out of 10 to somebody, well, somebody's 10 out of 10 could be an 8 to somebody, and somebody else's 10 out of 10 could be a 7 to somebody else, and you know, it can kind of vary after the 7, or especially after the 8. It really depends on the man or the person. Anyways, again, I'm not trying to tell men to be more picky out here. I'm trying to tell men to actually be fair to themselves and know their value, because again, I see so many really weak men out there, and then some of these really, really weak, short, pathetic men who have, you know, they're small framed, and they can get vindictive and mouthy, and they put down on people, and they call all they try to do is constantly serve a woman, and that's why some of these men are feminists, because a lot of these, what these men do is they're constantly trying to serve women, and whatever their woman says, if their woman says something is important, if their woman is thinks that something is women have been wronged or in some way, or talks about some kind of feminist talking point or something on the news that's kind of that she thinks is relevant, you know, this is you know, a lot of these men who are kind of, you know, supposedly feminist really aren't really feminists. They're really just weak men who, you know, do what women tell them to do, or do what women tell them to think, because they can't control themselves, and you know, they're subservient to their biology and to these women. So, and sometimes religions as well. Sometimes you're subservient to religions and culture and things as too. So the next point I wanted to make, it wrapping this up, you know, if men want to be, and if MGTOW wants men to be happy, to have a power to say no, you know, you got to say no to all those things. But also, MGTOW must be a beacon of hope. You got to be able to say no to things that you don't think are important, things that are a distraction, things that are actually destructive. But you also have to be able to say yes and speak truth, and say things that are valuable, and be a beacon of hope, not just escapism. Now, again, a lot of you are running away from these problems and these things and these dangers, and you need to find a place to go, and need to wake up and pay attention to that you've been lied to by your music and the movies, and maybe even your own mother. You know, you need to find some hope for your life, or some motivation or purpose, because if you don't have that, it's kind of tough to keep going on. Again, I am kind of a father figure in a way. I hope that I can help men keep going. I know that I'm not particularly popular yet, but people out there like Kevin Samuels and John Likas and many of these people out there have been father figures as well. And some of these people who make real MGTOW content, not these pickup artists, not those types of fools. We're talking about the people who are actually talking about, you know, how you know, men are wronged, and how men are actually abused, and actually, you know, how men need to start saying no. You type of men out there, you need to know how much impact you have. I encourage you to you know, hold in respect and encourage and love upon these men as much as you can, because you don't know how hurt these men are. You don't know what you know, you've been through some of these things as well, but you might not know how hurt and how betrayed some of these people are. I can tell you from personal experience that I was, and I still am, a very genuine, kind-hearted, you know, kind of humble person. And I was always honest and caring, and did my best, and always tried to date somebody who, you know, was similarly attracted to me. I always went for somebody who had a similar, maybe social status or class to me, and I was constantly disrespected, constantly ignored. I mean, I've been laughed at. I've had my toes literally stepped on. I've had women play little games. I've been ghosted or ignored. on Valentine's Day. And I have other stories, and I can't get into all the stories. I'm sure many of you out there have had many stories that are far worse than mine. But you other red pill MGTOW creators, you have your light workers, your healers, and you out there also. If you have a story to tell, feel free to message me if you don't want to tell that. But I encourage you to make a channel of your own. Make a channel speaking your experience, speaking about how we can help improve people's lives. Again, maybe you don't care about society. Maybe you don't care about your current nation or government or whatever, but figure out a way how you can help and make things better for the people who are actually disadvantaged in the actual minority, which is men. Both in numbers and culturally. So, again, when I say that men are taxed more than women, they are, both in number and in how the taxes are distributed. But now, soon we might have a tax just for men. If you're single, or if you're dating women and you're not, if you don't get married, or there might be other excuses or ways that they might tax men. They regularly tax men disproportionately, like on like car insurances and lots of things as it is. But men are being replaced with, you're being replaced as soon as you wisen up, as soon as you realize how these problems, and as soon as you realize these types of things are happening, the governments are importing immigrants into your countries with men who have not wisened up and will be expendable and usable to the feminist. And hope that you realize that's what's happening is with your nations as well. That they can these nations and powerful people and feminists, they're not playing a little game. They're not playing chess with a couple of some frat boys and some frat girls and a couple of relationships. They're playing with whole entire nations and whole entire economies, and they have clear, direct, and organized goals to replace you. It's happening in all of these countries where they keep bringing in more and more immigrants, more than are naturally born into that country. You're being replaced ethnically. And again, if you talk about these things, they act as if you are the radical for, not wanting your whole entire country taken over or subverted, because they're doing this to get the votes that they want. They want to get votes. And if they can offer these people a better lifestyle and free money and handouts, and they also can weaponize and teach them that you're the enemy, that you're the oppressor, and that you're the bad person, that and that they are the minority in the country, then these powerful people can undermine and stay in their positions of power. This is going on at a global scale, and as you can tell, this is only happening to countries that are predominantly white and predominantly European, places like Germany and France, and so even Spain, and the United States, of course, and Canada. And it's because the people who have developed these countries and who are getting wise, and the people who are the biggest threat to these powerful people and these organizations, and to the feminists, the most powerful, the people who are the greatest threat to the feminists, are probably the white people in general. And that's why they want to get rid of you. They're getting rid of the middle class. They're getting rid of the middle class so they can have more power and influence, and that they can shovel out a little bit of money here and there for the plebs and for the peasants, as they rule on top of all of this before it crumbles. But they don't care if it crumbles. They don't care if governments and economies work. They don't care if communities work. They don't care if society works. They don't care if they don't care if men and women get stay together or are happy. They don't care if people are actually happy. And they don't. I mean, they don't care about what, anything really. They've infected and taken over, everything: science, psychologies, studies, and just about everything. And I mention all this again because Google and Facebook and Instagram and all these things have algorithms and artificial intelligence and all these powers, and they're molding society. They're affecting what you can see and what you don't see, what you hear, what you don't hear, what you know, what you don't know. And it's getting harder and harder to find any real information, and it's going to get harder and harder to talk about these types of issues, to get the information out. It's going to be harder and harder to get books. I mean, they've already done essentially a book burning regarding like all famous movies. If you don't know, like on Netflix and all kinds of places like Amazon, they're with their video service, they've gotten rid of most older movies, or most movies that don't serve their purposes. You can't even. It's kind of hard to find them. And I was trying to tell my brother about this the other day, like with Western movies. You know that Western movies were the biggest genre for a while in the United States. I mean, there was like a decade where Western movies were the biggest movies and the biggest things, and they're still loved, and they're still very popular. But if you try to watch them on Netflix or Amazon or most of these streaming services, it's almost impossible, or it's very difficult to actually find any of these Western movies that were big movies. I mean, huge movies, very influential movies, because they show a strong, rugged individual man who's willing to take risks, who's willing to fight, and sometimes takes his own authority. So, I guess that's as a man, you might have, if you want to share these informations and protect these things for the future generations, you might have to start storing these things on hard drives so you can actually share these movies and maybe music or anything of value for the future generations, because and maybe set up your own forum, your own websites, or maybe even your own form of internet, because if this continues, they've already tried to take control of the entire internet, and in a way they do have control over the internet. This I hope that you realize that you can be happy, and I do encourage you to seek personal happiness. And again, all these wonderful things are valuable lessons that I've taught you here today. But I do also encourage you to please, stand up for freedom. Again, you don't have to become a politician if you don't want to. You don't have to, try to become a mayor or a senator or whatever. But I encourage you to, talk to people and spread some idea of freedom. Whether it be, you producing a product that people want, that would encourage people to be a little bit more free. And be able to do, something that they would like to do, or improve their lives. Do something with your life, and, find a way to help other people if you can, if you want to. Because again, so many of you have so much potential. You have great potential. And, I guess society in general is kind of the enemy, but we can, at least do our best, one way or another, to try to help people in some way. And I guess that's all we can do. But I think we can do much more than just doing something or just doing a little bit. I think that MGTOW should be a little bit more organized, and there is no leader. And I'm not trying to be the leader, but I'm saying that we should all, work together, I think, to do more for society, and maybe be a little bit more public. I know that most of these organizations don't like us and hate us and ostracize us, and that would give them fuel. CNN and MSNBC and the PBS and the BBC and all these people would just lie, and they would spin stories, and it would give them more opportunity to hate us. But, you know, maybe it would get that conversation started. But again, it's hard to have conversations with people if they want to outcast you, or throw you in jail, or even murder you, or burn down your house, isn't it? It's funny, isn't it? That you are the person who wants to help, and supposedly they act like they're the saviors and the protectors, and they act like they're the people who are kind and loving and accepting, and you are the bigot, but you're the one who is being, you know, threatened and violated and attacked. Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny? So, my friends, I encourage you to be out there and be successful, be happy, and, you know, make a wonderful life for yourself. I hope that I shared some valuable life lessons and encouraged and tried to improve MGTOW in a big positive way. Let me know how I did down below. Let me know if any of these truths or any of these points I made were relevant or important. Let me know if any of these things were helpful or valuable. Let me know. I hope that you found something of value in here, something that was helpful, and something that you could improve your life with. I encourage you, and I love you, and I know that going through the red pill experience, waking up, or understanding truths of really any kind can be a tough experience, an eye-opening experience, even sometimes a dark place. But I'm here for you, and I love you here at Daddy Knows Best. I hope to see you in the next video. To support me and encourage me as well, please like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share the video, and tell a friend. And I will see you soon, my friend. This has been From the Heart, and most of this was not scripted, and this has been an hour and a half video. So I'll see you soon, and bye.